On DC Music Rocks, we're shining a spotlight on the great songs, artists, and incredible people to keep you informed about your local music community. Lindsay is the talent buyer at Black Cat. She got her start booking benefit shows in high school for the American Cancer Society, and this sparked a lifelong interest in booking shows that have a positive social impact. Black Cat has been an independent bastion in the Washington, D.C. nightlife scene for 25 years. Lindsay has had a major role in the office at the Black Cat during most of the recent 5 years and in the club's storied history. So Lindsay is a headstrong individual who values ethics and principles over monetary gain when it comes to booking, which is an amazing phrase to hear come out about you. So I first came across Lindsay because fellow craft played shows at Black Hat, and I certainly have heard of her for so long. So I've been a fan of the work that you're doing and the club for so long, so it is a treat to have you sitting here with me. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, tell us about Black Hat. It's the story, why is it called the Black Hat? Or is there a story there? Talk about the history.
I feel I could tell you probably a better story of why you can write a check to the Black Cat or to Circle One Productions.
Oh, that's the proper business name?
Right.
Yeah, where does that come from?
Circle One Productions is a joke that Dante Ferrando, our owner, has. Dante's Inferno, the first circle of hell, is really where that comes from. And so the Black Cat itself is probably more of just that same. I don't think there's a specific Black Cat. I do know that the name has been in his family for years. There was a restaurant in the 1920s that was called the Black Cat that has been carried down. So the original story for the name, I'm not sure how far back you'd actually have to go to get it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you're ever at the Black Cat and Dante is there, ask him. Maybe he might know.
Or his ancestors might. Yeah.
Or his ancestors, right? It's buried in the history books somewhere.
It's been for a very, very long time there.
And speaking of, you mentioned the club has like a 100-year history. So where does the building does? Tell us more about that history part. You said it's been a part of the culture in DC. Can you share a little bit more about that in terms of how it's connected to the scene or some of that specialness in your opinion?
The Black Cat, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when Dante opened the place, he was in his early 20s. It's been around for a long time, and a lot of his reason for opening it was to create a space for the community, for music that he wanted to play and wanted to share, to be there. So his perspective has always been really great for us, in having him still be around. A lot of people, that's kind of one of the things that makes the mom and pop business so special, I guess, to the community, is that it does focus on things like, hey, is this something we want to do? Is this something that would benefit our community, people that we care about, that, definitely want to keep the lights on, but that's also a reason why we do want to get smaller. We do want to, not kind of fall into the hype machine, if you will, and kind of stick to our guns and, actually try to benefit that community and keep things on the lower side.
Wow, I love that. That is, thanks for, I'm such a fan of the Black Cat. And if you've never been to the Black Cat, where is the Black Cat?
It's on 14th Street between S and T. It's actually on the same block. It is, if you remember the old Black Cat, it's the same block. It's just a couple doors down. So I joke this upcoming renovation is our next iteration, our next cat life, right?
There's 9 lives that a cat has, and we're getting through some of them here.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Now, and for you then, what's your connection? How did you get hooked in with the Black Cat?
Oh, man, I remember going in as a youngin'. There's the only all-age venue, So, and then kind of entering that community then, but working there when I was 21, I moved back to DC to help my sister out, who was going through a hard time, and ended up staying. And I had a good friend named Alex who had, played a lot of the shows we mentioned earlier back when we were teenagers together. And he was like, oh, yeah, I started working door almost 8 years ago at this point now. And started working in the kitchen and then started working for Vicky, who taught me, her and Dante taught me everything I know. and that's, I guess, how that happened.
So,
good old-fashioned way.
Right, so you got connected in. And that was how long ago now? You've been, we said 5 years?
8 with the club.
Holy smokes, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And especially these days, people don't tend to keep jobs for 8 years. So it's kind of amazing that goes to credit like the great family vibe and the love that the Black Cat creates.
It is. It's really special for me. As someone who moved around every 2 years growing up, I think the idea of community is something that is a beautiful thing in this world. It's cool.
Yeah. And you moved every 2 years because Dad was military?
Yeah, my dad was military, which brought us to, he worked at the Pentagon when I was 15 to 18, which is when you can reference those, we called them Die Cancer Die Fest and F Cancer Fest. Those would be back in that day from 15 to 18 in Northern Virginia would have been the area for that.
That's so cool. And you know what? I have the same story. My dad was military, and he was stationed at the Pentagon, and I was here as a kid, too. That's funny.
We're many of us around the area.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely. It's that connection. Now, let's talk about you on the personal side. So outside of the Black Cat, like hobbies, what do you do in your free time? Free time? What is that?
But I have it. So many things depending on, how I'm feeling in that free time. One of the things right now that I'm so excited for is April 15th is our last day of frost. I'm a big gardener, so I've been, germinating since January, and I have, I was joking, I think I have about 85 plants and only room for 28 of them. So if anyone needs any plants, hey, let me know.
Oh my goodness.
I'm trying to get rid of some. It's a good news when everything germinates, but that and I'm building a pottery studio in the garden this year to hopefully bring some pottery skills back into the backyard.
Wow.
And I'm a big crochet, knitting, sewing.
Wow.
I like to create
totally
my
the
own
artsy
things.
side.
Yeah,
so you got the creative side that's not necessarily making music, but it's making other art pieces and stuff
making
like that
clothes
too.
or fill in the blank. Whatever. I have a nephew on the way, so making a lot of baby booties right now.
There you go. Excellent. Oh God, love those nephews. Absolutely. Now, talk about a funniest moment in the history of Black Cat. What comes to mind?
I mean, this one was hard for me because I find myself more dealing with either things that are tragically hilarious or things that are coincidentally, what? Oh my gosh, how funny. But there's nothing really that's, oh, ha, 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 that happened, that's hilarious. So one story that came to mind is just this funny moment. We had the Wallflowers play, and man, it was not the right year for them. They had come back, and we were, pushing the show. It was a great show in the end. It worked out fine. Most things do. That's why, everything's fine in the end. It's just all the stress, leading up to it. Sure. But I remember we typically don't have many runners. We're not that big. And so I had to pick up Jacob Dylan that night. And as we're driving back to the club, he's getting ready, just chatting about, I don't know, whatever in the car on the way to the club. It's about a 5-minute drive. And I just chuckled and will never forget the moment I looked down and realized that there was only one headlight, and it just stuck with me really hard. It was a good moment.
Oh my God. And if you didn't catch that, think about it. Do a little Googling and see if you catch what she just did there, because it was so good. I love it. Now, if you could offer one piece of advice, what would it be?
To be honest, I feel like a lot of the industry, you have people that are trying to either convince you of something or to explain something in a way of seeming very big if it comes to ego or pride or, whatever it is. But the best thing I can find in this industry to deal with is being honest and having people will respect you a lot more if you are upfront about what you can deliver or where you're.
I'll say, does that have to do with like when a band says how many people they can bring, or what else are you referring to there?
I guess most of the time dealing with, hey, can I bring fire inside? Like, no. Please, or do it anyway, or things like that. It's just or why. It's like, because of this thing, or it's just easier. I feel like when you're honest with people. And even when it comes to, shows that maybe don't do as well, or shows that do way above what you would think. Everyone, can get their high and low points. And I guess about being honest with yourself and honest with, what you're doing, is always going to kind of come out on top in the end, in my opinion. So, I don't know.
Got it. No, that makes perfect sense. And actually, while we're talking about it, I was just curious, when a band emails you and says, hey, we want to play the Black Cat, what do you look at? What are you thinking about?
Oh, man. So many things. Well, the first thing, right, is, hey, does this fit?
Mm-hmm.
Does this fit our genre? And
what is that genre?
Variations of alternative rock music.
Okay.
Right? So that's, where and now genres are so, they've just bled into each other so much that it's really hard to it's one of the tough games that I play constantly.
Sure.
And local is a little different because we want to maintain, that community. So I'm going to mention Heather May and Chris are more singer-songwriter types, which you won't typically find, those kind of artists on the more national scale come through.
Sure.
But locally, of course, we would want to cater to that more. So if it fits the genre, and if we have the date, right, and because coordinating that calendar with 2 rooms is, it's a lot, to try to figure out a lot of, hey, how long can you wait? What do you need to do? And a lot of back and forth happens before you come to a conclusion.
Got it. Yeah. So the genre and the date, and then potentially how many people they can bring.
And it's like, hey, how many people are in your band? Do you have a 15-person band? Because the backstage is,
right,
let's talk about production.
And 5 people,
There's just so many questions that go into it. So, a lot of the hoping we can do with the new room on the 3rd floor is saying a real simple setup, like, hey, plug in, play, and cut down on the expenses to go back into the local community, which will hopefully, that's the plan.
That's awesome. I love it. And one more time, if they want to find out more about what's happening at Black Cat, where do they go?
blackcatdc.com.
That's the place.